Insurgent, more Rusty Iraq's World Tour Edition, that and more. And we're joined by musical guests, success, smashing radios all over Ukraine, the Brown Mountain Saddle.
These are the true truths, the real realities. This is Mouthwords with Jim Mazner.
Welcome to the fourth episode of Mouthwords, the self-proclaimed world's greatest podcast. We've got a brand new show for you this week, no reruns here, and it's a good one. We joined Jim Byjim and his personal joke collection, more restaurant reviews, World Tour Edition, and we're joined by musical guest, a success smashing radios all over the Ukraine, the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys. All that and more in this episode. Stay tuned. But first, the news. The Iraq War hit its 5-year anniversary this week, and no one was happier than the citizens of San Francisco, who flooded the streets in celebration. President Bush reaffirmed his commitment to the engagement, while also admitting that it had continued far longer than he had imagined and cost more lives than he had wished. Iraqi citizens held a more modest celebration, continuing their daily routines of sitting around, pretending to work, and constantly complaining. Well, it's been 5 years, and we here at Mouthwords are proud to say, we're a third of the way there! In international news, China continued its spring cleaning in preparation for the Olympics, this time by pumping tear gas into a crowd of Tibetan monks. Citizens of the oppressed region, historical home to the Dalai Lama and the Lamaas Opium, have been protesting against 50 years of Chinese rule, and human rights organizations estimate almost 100 people have been killed. The violence comes just 4 months before the 2008 Olympic Games, set to take place in Beijing, and China has tried to clean up its territory with as filthy with the grime of industrialization and the general blight of being inhabited by the Chinese. On the campaign trail, Barack Obama responded to criticism he has faced over comments made by his pastor, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Obama defended the character of Reverend Wright, who has made anti-American and anti-white remarks in his past sermons, but he did not defend Wright's statements. In a speech in Philadelphia, Obama commented that Wright's comments were, quote, not only wrong, but divisive. In response to what pundits are calling a historic speech, Reverend Jeremiah Wright responded with what he called an apology.
Black people of America, let me hear you say, hey, oh, what up, Barack Obama, Barack Obama. Show him some love. White people are evil. Can I get a witness? Can anybody loan me $20? Fuck the police.
Jokes by Jim Byjim.
What did Ontario get for its birthday? A lake of cake! What did the cabbage do to the mayonnaise when he hit him with his car? He filed a Slawsuit.
That's not even funny.
In the stellar planet exploration, underscored by infatuation.
Hello, and welcome to Me Eat Food. I am Kevin Murphy Singer. Intrepid travelers that we are at Mouthwords, Jim Mazner, Jim Byjim, and I made a quick and jaunty excursion out to Toronto last week to taste the flavors it has to offer. We feasted and fattened ourselves at a number of different restaurants, 3 of which in particular stand out. First among them, Spuntini, a high-end Italian restaurant whose earnest, endearing, and polished decor provided with an accomplished ambiance that is, to say the least, riveting. I don't mean to dwell, but the bathroom was both subterranean and spacious. It's what I imagine Adolf Hitler's Berlin bunker bathroom to have been. High vaulted ceilings and the scent of lavender filling the air, masking the smell of human refuse. The tables also looked more than sturdy, not a wobbler in sight. The menu boasted all the classic Italian fare. You've got your spaghetti with and without meatball, fettuccine alfredo, lasagnas, and of course the gourmet pizza, which Jim Byjim and I elected to indulge in. My pie came tastefully topped with feta cheese, olives, artichoke hearts, and succulent blackened chicken that packed an amusing punch. The pizza I actually ordered, which was sent to Jim Byjim because the world hates me, featured the most understatedly brilliant tasting sweet sausage I'd ever laid taste bud to. Jim Mazner ordered the gnocchi and had a big gnocchi eating grin on his face all night. I browsed the wine list but drank the water. In sum, it's not advanced kitchen science, emulsifiers, or the newfangled avant-garde buzzword, molecular gastronomy. It's old-fashioned, rustic Italian cuisine served with a pleasant and respectful bon appetit. Spuntini can be found at 116 Avenue Road in Toronto, Ontario. That's 116 Avenue Road, Toronto, Ontario.
On Toronto's seedy west side, on the meanest, cleanest streets of our neighbor to the north, lies a tiny slice of Portugal and, in effect, a tiny slice of heaven. The neighborhood mirrors the streets of Lisbon perfectly. Homosexual street toughs wander the boulevards carrying motherless and undoubtedly corrupted children. And you can almost taste the salt breeze, if salt were to taste like regular air. We meandered up and down College Street, admiring the lack of dangerous minority groups and searching, in vain, for a restaurant we found on the internet. The restaurant did not exist, and we were forced to wander into one of the many Portuguese eateries lining the road. A large man, whose name I forgot, greeted us and escorted us to our table. We'll call him Paco. I ordered the barbecue chicken, a house specialty, and Kevin had the quail. Jim Byjim was also with us, but his 110-pound figure doesn't starve itself, so he settled for a salad. Service was a bit of an issue here, but we were delighted to find, when our food arrived, that the well-known Portuguese smell of Paco did not tarnish the grub. I'm not a big fan of chicken in general, but it's hard to pass up a house special in a neighborhood place like this. My chicken came atop a mound of rice and fist-sized potatoes, and was succulent and tender, with a barbecue sauce fit for Henry the Navigator, whose life story dotted our colorful placemats. Kevin enjoyed his quail as well, despite the bones, and Jim finished just 1/4 of his salad before running to the bathroom to purge. More a statement about the ridiculous standards in the modeling industry than a comment on the food itself. Despite the excellent food and the tribal atmosphere, it's difficult for me to recommend this place. I simply don't remember the name. I'll tell you what, pack a lunch and walk down College Street with a few hours to spare. I'm 50 to 55% sure it'll be there. Somewhere. Kevin?
Jumbo Empanadas, an ode to the warm and cheesy. Although located in the so-bourgeois bohemian I want to kill myself Kensington Market District, Jumbo Empanadas were just what I needed after trekking mile after mile in what turned out to be one of Toronto's worst snowstorms in recent years. Aesthetically simple, devoid of flash, razzle, and or dazzle, this empanada emporium doesn't fool around. Remember to ask for the salsa, which is free and made fresh daily. It packs quite a wallop. Besides the titular cuisine of the restaurant's namesake, traditional Chilean corn pies and salads are also available. Jumbo Empanadas can be found at 245 Augusta Avenue, Toronto, Ontario. That's 245 Augusta Avenue, Toronto, Ontario. Dueling ties. Detroit's Orchid Thai restaurant may not measure up to the consistent offering of authentic and perfectly seasoned dishes one might find at Dearborn's Bangkok 96 or Birmingham's Sai Thai, at least of yesteryear, that is, but it's good and at times resplendent. I've never once eaten a dish I would remotely consider offensive to my palate, or that I would poo-poo for a cheap lark at a party. Its waitstaff is demure and knows its place. I suspect that if I asked my waitress to bark like a dog, moo like a cow, or sing like a songbird, she would most kindly have obliged. I particularly enjoyed the obsequious sycophancy of one waitress in particular, who commented that my eyes reminded her of the twin-setting suns of Tatooine. As for atmospherics, there isn't much to holler about, unfortunately. Wooden ornaments depicting deities in naturalistic locales don't do much to liven up a room that could easily be misconstrued as a purveyor of any number of Pan-Asian cuisines. But what about the food? Orchid Thai's cow pad, or fried rice, to the layman, is just what it should be. Filling, enjoyable, and without the sense that you've just eaten an entire stick of butter. And if you like to get your noodle drunk, and no, I don't mean your brain noodle, the drunken noodle is a meritorious delight. It also stands up to the microwave reheating test, with great gusto, by resisting the propensity most dishes have upon reheating to become washed out and flavorless. In fact, the drunken noodle I ordered the other night, and reheated the next day, ranks number 10 on my all-time food experiences list, right between number 11, my very first sip of ambrosia from the Holy Grail. And number 9, the fertile sweat of my noble brow, whence dripped upon my lips so foul. O life, so sweet, so short, so deep, the perspicacity of perspiration, from titillated tongue to brainwave sung, on high, great dream, a dream of dreams gone by. Order the drunken noodle. Lastly, the pad thai in pithy prose is perfection on a plate. I suspect the subtle mixture of many varied seasonings that go into this utterly misunderstood, complex dish are the product of none other than the fine tunings and experiments of MIT's famous pad thai research facility. In the way of libations, Orchid Thai's sweet tea comes highly recommended as an unrivaled complementary pairing with the restaurant's already premier food. Orchid Thai can be found at 115 Monroe Street in Detroit, located just off Campus Marshes. Once again, that's 115 Monroe Street in Detroit, located just off Campus Marshes. Now listen here. Pick up your phone. Pick it up. Dial 313-962-0225. 313-962-0225. Good. Wait a minute. Hello, Orchid Thai. How may I be of service to number 1 special customer? Now, Jim Mazner is about to get on the apparatus here, and he's going to begin to blather his bovine bloviations and to frivolously pontificate aloud about how Orchid Thai is an inferior Thai restaurant than his beloved Salatai. Now, let me preface his opening salvo by saying that Salatai's food is in fact edible, its drink quaffable, but you only have a 30% chance of keeping that food and that drink in your stomach. Why, pray tell? Because Salatai, for some reason, chooses to employ perhaps the most physically despicable lot of human specimens to ever serve so-called food. An unholy macabre circus of freaks, elephant people, and social rejects await your order. Beware the most sickening offender of all. The waitress, which I speak of, is, of course, the flabby flesh bingo arm from hell. Each time you see her fat bags rumble, you'll just want to go home, eat a carrot, and lift some free weights. Yuck to the max. Jim?
Well, as usual, Kevin, your recommendations are about as vapid as your personality. Orchid Thai has been declining in taste and quality over the years, to the point where their soups taste like top ramen, and their chicken looks like goat testicles. The place is almost completely empty, big surprise, and the waitress is about as homely as can be, to the point where just looking at her turns the food in my mouth to ash. Not that ash wouldn't be an improvement over the swill they manufacture. I'd say it's so bad that even the rats stay away, but it's evident from their meat quality that they don't. I prefer Salatai, located on the outskirts of Eastern Market in the same building as a fire station, so there's minimal risk of burning alive in this restaurant. They serve adequate sushi and slightly bland Thai dishes with inconsistent spice levels, but they have nice booths and a small fountain in the lobby. The truth is, it's difficult for me to recommend any Thai restaurant in the city, and I must say I can't believe that hardworking immigrants are steering clear of establishing high-quality eateries in this beacon of safety and overall prosperity we call Detroit. I'd say we're due. Salatai is located at 3400 Russell Street, but again, I wouldn't recommend it.
This is sound check. This is sound check. This is sound check. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Salutations, greetings. I am Kevin Murphy Singer. Welcome to Soundcheck. You are about to hear what is certainly going to be the most special and talked about episode of Soundcheck ever. With me today for an interview are the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys. Spawned in the murky cavity of existentialist angst that can only trace its origins back to sheer boredom, they sprang forth, warm and wet, from the loins of creation, and have since walked the earth its greatest progeny. Riding the manic glockenspiel of life, its hiccups and its torments, they arrive here today in our studio. Their music can only be described as charming pop nuggets, equal parts whirl, twist, and inspiration. It is music composed in the most earnest and elegiac of fashions. Their first album, Talent to Breed, is truly hope personified. Its songs painted a vivid picture of the grizzled players' tableau spleen hatred for the rough and tumble streets of their youth. Later would come more music, linear progression being the goal, although progress being such a prickly ape, it's a wonder they even bothered. But it did indeed arrive at long last, a second album, Pillars of Excellence. Controversy immediately ensued. Brainy pun jesters tried to hate them out of existence, but have failed time and again. Today we are joined by them. They grace our presence. These are the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin.
Shoot, it's nice to be here.
Well, I think I've scored the interview of a lifetime here. The last interview you two conducted was with Dieter Modjgen for the Nazi-run newspaper Nein Judisch in 1936.
It has been some time since we have spoken to the media.
Indeed it has. First, let me say I've been a very big fan and promoter of the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys, since I first heard a single note of your music.
Thank you.
A little background for the listening audience. Born in Jiffy, Montana in 1877, the same year Thomas Edison introduced the phonograph, the brothers Hatskin, Doc, and Professor took an immediate shine to music. They are one of the greatest untold stories in music history. A Google search of their name will yield nothing. A true enigma in an age where mysteries seem to have become almost extinct. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but according to my amateur calculations, you guys are 131 years old. What's going on with that?
Well, 1919, Doc and I were in Romania. We decided to expose ourselves to a vampire during a night of passionate wild abandon. We figured that as vampires ourselves, we would not only live forever, but be able to practice forever. Hold our craft, you see. Become the best possible musicians we could.
Brilliant!
That vampire had rabies, though, and we were very sick for a long time.
How about the names, then? A little unusual. Professor and Doc. Neither of you have official degrees, is that correct?
Yes.
Were your mother's hopes for you two, vocationally speaking, embedded in the names, perhaps?
The story goes, I don't know if it's true per se, but Mama named me Professor because my head was bigger than Doc's. It appeared I had more brain matter. Doc, on the other hand, had all his genitalia, and the country doctor who delivered us seemed very impressed. So we named him Doc on account of his perfect anatomy. 5 finger, 5 toes, 1.5 gonads.
That strikes me as very rustic and very American. And you know, that's exactly how I would describe your sound to the uninitiated. American at its very core. I would like to play a sample from your debut LP. The song was called Cocoa Butts. It was released in 1882 when the boys were just 5 years old. A copy, I don't know if you two knew this, but a copy of your original LP, Talent to Breed, sells for as much as $3 million on eBay and other such auction sites. Their second LP, Pillars of Excellence, which saw wider circulation thanks to a record contract with the Alabama-based Coon Records, somehow defies the laws of supply and demand and sells for on average $11 million. So now I'd like to speak to you about Pillars of Excellence, which was a Korean War protest album, probably the greatest Korean War protest album of all time. However, it received a lot of mixed reviews. Some called it dreck, others vile to the ear. One reviewer said it was mildly copacetic. Another said, if this music was a person, it should be tied to a chair and shot. Now, the most negative review, let me read it for the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys are not merely awful. They are so unbelievably horrible, so appallingly unmusical, so dogmatically insensitive to the magic of the art that they qualify as the crowned heads of anti-music. Pretty rough, but do you guys have any response to that?
Well, you know, it's always been fascist backlash.
Nobody wanted to admit that the war was about stealing rice and reducing the cost to Korean babies.
That album was released in 1952. Where have you been since then?
We've been addicted to opium for the last 56 years.
And how's that going? Are you guys still chasing the Purple Puma?
It has been very hard for us. a very purple time in both our lives.
We have done unspeakable things in our pursuit of opium. The blood of unicorns has been spilled.
However, you haven't been completely indolent in that time, I've noticed. There was a collaboration with 2 rap artists in the mid-90s.
Well, we were approached about a collaboration with 2 young hip-hop up-and-comers, Dr. Snagglepuss and Oppressor, in early 1990s about a split EP. We did it. We both had our misgivings about a crossover to that genre. The EP was called Pastrami Face, Rye Bread, Pootie Tag, Nature's Smelly Ass, and Other Mysteries. A Brown Mountain Saddle Boys Dr. Snagglepuss Oppressor joint. We were so strung out on opium, it was like a complete blur.
Here's a sample from that album. The song is called False Ghettos and Crippled Shaws.
Like we said, we were really high, and everything was moving like molasses in the vacuum of space. So we apologize. We apologize profusely.
Your lyrics have become the stuff of legend. I took a course in American Lit at Our Lady Jemima Puddle Duck Radio College. It was the only English course I ever took, and we did a unit on poets of the mountains and studied some of professors' lyrics as evidence of postmodern crises in reason and moral judgments in backwoods America. Now I quote, this is from the song Typhoon Sally, "Girl, why won't you take my pills? Resist my urges still, oh Typhoon Sally." It goes on, "Girl, just take a nap with me. Oh girl, I'll set you free. Typhoon Sally." What's going on there? And then first let me say that I think that's the most passionate thing I've ever read.
I knew a girl by the name of Sally back home in Jiffy. I asked her to chew my pills, to regurgitate them for me, because I can't swallow pills larger than 1 cubic millimeter. She hit me like a typhoon, sir. I love that girl. And I wrote that song for her when I was knee-deep in Chosun Reservoir in Korea.
Life is so unfair.
So true. So very, very true.
Where do the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys go from here?
Home furnishings.
Home furnishings and microprocessors.
I look forward to both those projects.
Before we go, I just want to say George Bush planned September 11th with the help of the Soviet Politburo, which is under mass hypnosis of elders of Zion who are in the pocket of Kraft Foods, Inc.
And I just want to say that George Bush hates black people.
What a pleasure. I don't want to say goodbye, but the inexorable march of time brings us to this end. I do sincerely believe that the Brown Mountain Saddle Boys have places to go from here. For any band to have created such courageous art is only surrounded by places to go. Looking on up from the bottom, lost settlers who have wandered too far ahead. Thank you for joining us. You guys are genuine, bona fide American heroes. Here is Typhoon Sally from the Pillars of Excellence LP. This has been Kevin Singer with a very special edition of Soundcheck. Back to Jim Mazner, headquarters. Jim!
How does that make you feel? Oh child, I wanna feel it still. Typhoon Sally. Take a simple nap with me. Oh girl, I'll set you free. Oh Typhoon Sally. You shake me still. You everlasting thrill. Oh Typhoon Sally.
Jokes by Jim Byjim.
What did Lord Stanley call his blanket store? Afghanistanly.
Not funny at all.
What did the pair... I'm sorry, I just simply can't go on. I may tell lots of funny jokes on this radio program, but there's nothing funny about my next topic. Stagflation. As a senior fellow at Princeton's Fanny Arbuckle School of Economics, I spend most of my time thinking about money and jokes. And nothing scares my money pouch quite like stagflation. Stagflation is when rising prices and a shrinking economy combine to make everyone miserable. So beware, there'll be troubled times ahead, matey.
Well, thanks for joining us in another episode of Mouthwords. And our next show will feature another visit from entertainment correspondent J.E. Silbert, business advice from Chip Ritchie, and a preview of the upcoming baseball season from the sports insurgent, the wacky Iraqi Bruce Nager. That and more in 2 weeks' time. This show is produced by Alex Weiner, Kevin Singer, and myself, with contributions from David Berg. Mouthwords is brought to you by the Wayne State chapter of the United Student Community for the Re-Deintegration of Popular Civil Initiatives. USC or PCI, we're doing something. Subscribe to Mouthwords via the iTunes podcast directory and have your favorite podcast automatically downloaded to your iTunes every 2 weeks. Contributions and comments are always welcome. Please email us at mouthwords1@gmail.com. From our TV room with newly installed cable straight to your pelvis, this is Mouthwords, and I'm Jim Mazner. Subscribe to Mouthwords on the iTunes. No shit. Subscribe to Mouthwords on the shit. Subscribe to Mouthwords via the shit.